I bought this on Amazon, so we're going to check the quality of this. And these were about $10 a piece, shipped from China. And we are going to take one of each and we're going to compare them and see what we have. So I was working on a Janome sewing machine and noticed that they needed a new bobbin case, and thought that this would be a great opportunity to order some from China and one from the US. Alright, so now we're looking at the bottom side. We do have different markings on the bottom. You'll notice these holes are in the same spot, so that's good for the machine. Usually the big one is in a place where you can oil the hook assembly. This one has a number 1 inside, this one has a number 2 right in there, and then this one has some sort of weird marking triangle with a circle in it. This one doesn't have any marking. That we're talking about right in here. So this is the actual Janome part, and this hole is actually a hole that goes down inside there. So that's what that is. This, on the Chinese version, we'll just call it the off-brand from now on. So the off-brand version that I got from China, this one does not go in right there, and we'll see how the other side looks here in a minute. And you can notice just a color difference on the C-clamp right there. So the real Janome brand has a Janome part number engraved inside. Looks like it's laser engraved right in there, or laser etched, I guess you could say. They look physically identical. I would say that if you look, one difference that I can see is this on the Janome part right here is a little bit more pointy than the one right here. And you know, depending on how this interacts with the machine, I don't think that really makes a difference. Rounded over is maybe something that you want better, although the thread normally would come around on this side. And then as I'm looking at the Janome part, you can see the adjustment screw right here for our tension. And then this screw right here is what holds the whole tension assembly inside of this bobbin case. And then you've got this right here is going to be the piece that goes on. There's a spring. It's not really what you would think of as a spring, but it's a little piece of metal that acts as a spring to keep the case in the right spot, the right position. So this piece right here is very important for it to be in the right spot, and we'll check that with the machine here a little bit later. This one, so on our generic, we have a preset tension on here, so they put in some glue or something to keep you from adjusting the tension. What you do to get around this, if you have to adjust the tension, is you stick a screwdriver in there and turn it, because it doesn't really prevent you from doing that. And again, the screw that holds the tension assembly inside the bobbin case. Okay, and then this bobbin case on the Janome has a feature where this little arm comes across. Spring loaded, and so on our generic, I mean, that spring tension feels about the same. We still have the little red locating little marker there, which is good. Overall, these are very similar. I'm actually a little bit more comfortable using the generic version on a machine. So when I talked to the customer for this particular machine, I said that I have the ability to get a $40 bobbin case in 2 days because it was Amazon, or they could wait and then I would get them the $15 bobbin case, which actually turned out to be only $10, so it's even cheaper. And I just wasn't sure. I said it'll probably be by the end of the month, and this actually came pretty quickly. It came in only about 2 weeks, so not too bad. It didn't take the month that I thought it was going to. Before we put it in the machine, we're going to test our tension. Okay, here we have our bobbin tension gauge. It's not really made to hold these kind of bobbins. It's made for the older versions of bobbins, but in this case this works just fine. So we've got our thread in there, and we're going to pull, and we're going to see what kind of tension we have. Okay, we're about 24 on this one. And then now with the generic, 26. So very close to the same tension. Okay, now that we've done that testing, we found that this is a suitable replacement so far for our name brand. Now we're going to get our machine out and we're going to put them in there and see. Now, what are some things that I'm concerned about? Well, maybe the alignment's not the same, so maybe when you look at how far it tilts either direction, it may be a different amount. The other thing that concerns me is, you know, the plastic that they use is a softer plastic. Maybe it won't last quite as long, being an inferior product. But right now, when I'm looking at it, you pay 4 times as much for something that works just as well. You know, at least right now, looks like it. So when I look at this right now, you know, 4 times the cost for the name brand, or the quarter of the cost for an off-brand. Right now I'm leaning towards using generic, but we'll see. So first off, we're going to do the Janome name brand. Here's the spring I was talking about, which causes your bobbin case to spring back after every stitch. It helps to spring it back into position. And then you'll notice that it goes the other direction, so this little stopper over here prevents it from going too far the other direction. So you should only have a small gap right here, and all your service manuals will tell you exactly what the gap should be. And we've got a little bit of movement before we hit that spring and get more movement. So that looks about right. And then we put in our generic. See if we've got the same amount of clearance, and we do. So we're hitting over here on the right spot, and we're hitting the spring in the right spot. So it looks like our dimensions are correct for this replacement. And the only other thing is does that happen at the right time? So we'll check that out too. Does this hit it at the right place? So we'll see. That arm that comes over, and I believe that's part of the thread cutter. When you look at this dimension, which we didn't look before, you'll notice that, so your Janome, which is right here, it's on this side, and then you have your generic, the height of that little arm is higher on the generic than it is on the Janome. So that's not a good thing, because that little arm may not hit it. Okay, so we've done a little bit of an adjustment on there with our generic part to make it closer. Let's see what we've got. Now it's hitting the way it should. Every time, so now our generic is a match. Now that we got the part, we're putting our machine back together. Next step is to do some test sewing, and then on this machine we've got to educate the owner on our thread spool and how that should be installed, and how that we can prevent that from causing the issue down here again. Thanks for watching.